Why can't we have this in our server? Amateur.
Because we are in our server.
New server.
Wait. Okay, there. Okay. So. Quote unquote Clockwork strat thing.
Yes.
Ignore this real quick. I'm just gonna go straight to here because the last map is where it actually gets showed off 100%.
They're running an Ash though.
That's the wrong team. That's the wrong team, dum dum.
I don't know. They're 101 right now.
You're still
Wait,
seeing Bury Me Alive on this fair. It's a little bit more difficult here, but still finds engineering.
But they have a
Once
Torb?
we get an
what's
actual
going
team
on?
fight.
This
Okay.
is the Clockwork comp.
So here, let me explain how this works real quick. Let me just take. I'm gonna go like this. Hold up.
Just take a snip. Oh.
What do you mean? Alright. Okay, this is actually scuffed. Hold up. Theater mode. No.
It's a little better. Hi chat. Do the
Yeah.
press arrow top right of the.
Yeah, okay, there. I forgot how to hide chat. I was trying to figure out how. Okay, there. Okay, so this. How do you run this correctly? So the entire idea is at the Orisa, you're going to have, let's just say, enemy team, friendly team, and then line of scrimmage is right here. Okay. So the entire idea is that you're going to have your Orisa set up in the front, right here, right, just protecting your team, and then you're going to have whatever healer you're running, or if it's two healers, running right behind your Orisa at all times. You never really want to be having your healers split up ever behind the shield. Then what you're going to want to do is that you're going to have your two other players that isn't the Mei to get some sort of pressure up past the line of scrimmage towards their team on this side. They want to have them go on some sort of flank on this side, whether it's all the way off to the left, the right, right next to them in the front, on the low ground, on the high ground, just somewhere. And you want them to be putting as much pressure as possible in the front. And the Mei's job is to get them there without taking that much damage or buying them time. What the Mei is going to do is that she's also going to sit right behind the Orisa, and then she is going to put a wall in front of their team, so the Torbjorn and the Roadhog in this case can walk up around this side or this side where the wall is protecting them, and they can just get really close to them without anything happening. And they are going to play around some sort of corner so they have some sort of protection, and they're going to wait for the Orisa to throw out a halt orb in here so that the hog can throw his hook in, grab them, kill him, and they're now up 5-6. Once they're now up 5-6, then the enemy team starts getting pushed by the Torb hog, so Torb hog starts to push into them, while the rest of our team is going to start pushing in. And since there is a ton of front pressure from the Torb hog, doing a lot of damage, and they can't be pressured that much because they're down 1, or the enemy team is down 1, the enemy team is going to start to back up. And since the enemy team is now backing up, the healers and the Orisa can start to push forward with the allotted space that the enemies are giving them and cap point. That is the entire idea around this comp. Now, instead of playing exactly this comp, we might try running a D.va instead of a hog, or instead of a Torbjorn, and put a Baptiste in for what is it? Yeah, instead of an Ana Zen, and then run a D.va or a McCree. And that way, instead of having the McCree go up, it'll be the D.va and the hog, since D.va is still just as tanky and can take as much damage and can protect the hog, while also being able to get some sort of mobility onto the high ground, kill a potential Pharah, which, by the way, Pharah, as you'll see, is the only counter to this comp. Pharah absolutely dunks on this comp, so that's why we're running the D.va McCree. And McCree can do the same job as Torbjorn with the team, and the D.va can do the same job better than the Torbjorn with the hog. So that is the entire idea of this comp, is Mei make space, The Orisa moves forward as the other two DPS make as much space as possible, or the other two players make as much space as possible. And then if we're running a McCree, he is staying behind the Orisa to capitalize on the forward momentum.
The important thing, and you still have a
So we'll see examples here after they get an actual fight going.
Still play it, no problem. And now first take goes to be Tilta again.
This has been the story so far. Red Bull actually a fantastic angle behind Mini-Me's shield and just keep putting down so much damage. Already so close to that barrage, and Mccree, the only real ultimate on the side of Clockwork Vendetta. Tynocrab also nearing that supercharge as well, so they are going to have a lot of holding power on this point if they really start, you know, hold it for maybe 1 or 2 more fights.
Okay, so you see they open up the fight with a hold hook, which you want to be doing every single time because it could always end up in a free pick, and you'll see that once they get this hold hook combo off, that they'll start to push forward a lot more with the Hog Torb specifically, and they'll try to use the May to either wall someone off or make sure that the Torb Hog can get even closer than they already are. So they peek through here, this left side. They stop to throw out the halt, and then immediately after they throw out the halt, the Hog tries to get a pick right away. And since they get the pick, now you'll see that the Torb Hog, right here, the Torb's pushing forward. The Hog is going to push with him, if he's somewhere. Yeah, he's going on a large flank behind them. And because they have all this pressure from the sides and from the back, they are just going to get completely demolished by the 2 DPS.
They gave up 35% though, so that's a decent amount to be Tilta.
And you'll see in this next fight, I'll point out, while those two are doing their job, you'll see the Orisa and the May what their job is. You'll see right here with the wall. I need to go slower. I need to half speed.
A lot of holding.
Okay. So Haltug comes out. The Torb Roadhog start to move forward, and when they start to move forward, you'll see the Orisa start to push up further than she already was. So she was originally holding her shield right here, but now she is up here. And their entire team is starting to back up now because they got that initial pick, and they are now getting pressured from the sides and from the back. As their May now doesn't really need to make more space since they're up 2. She is just trying to build ult as fast as possible and try to just clean up with the rest of the team. In here, they set up the exact same way. They try to look for an early halt hook combo. Fortunately, they cannot get it off. Because right here, you'll see that the Orisa throws in the halt, and in reaction to the halt, they put up a wall. And the reason that is because they do not want anyone to get picked off early, because if anyone dies in this comp, they immediately lose, because everyone plays a very specific role. If you lose anyone, you lose the fight. So your job as May is not only to create space for your team, but to also make sure that nobody is in danger whenever they are out of position, and you can make a wall between them and the enemy if they come into any sort of danger, like getting halted right there.
Yeah.
But since they used wall here,
Base.
since they used wall here, and they are forced to back up because they don't have the wall to make any space for their Roadhog or their Torb to do any work. And that's why they start to back up here. Once they start to back up, the Roadhog tries to go for an early flank, and you need to notice something right here, is that since Mini-Me is set up so far back there, if he wants to halt this choke right here, or like back here, the Roadhog wouldn't be able to reach the halt with his hook all the way back where the Orisa is. So the Hog here is taking a more aggressive position around the corner so that he can immediately pop out and hook the target into his team. Now notice one thing though, he is not standing somewhere where his team can't see. He's standing right here instead of right here, or maybe over here, because as soon as they push through and he halts either right here or here, he is going to be able to pull them from here, and the team is going to be able to attack them right here. Or if they come through and halt here, he's going to pull here, and it accomplishes the same task. So you need to make sure to always pull people into a line of sight of your team, but also make sure that you are within range of the halt wherever it's going to land.
Hmm. So is Hog always gonna be on some kind of flank?
It depends. So first fight, okay. So generally, the setup is going to be, if you are attacking, everyone's going to be starting together, and then you have the Mei create space for the Hog and Torb to be really aggressive. Try to get a halt hook combo early. The entire goal is to get that first halt hook combo, and once you get that, you can snowball the fight easily with the Torb Hog or D.va Hog in our case, and that could be extremely lethal if you can pull off the halt hook. But you need to get that off. So if you are defending and you're not all together, you have defender's advantage, so you can set up wherever you want, which means that you can set up here to where you have the advantage of being able to hook whoever is coming through this choke without any pressure, because they're not going to come through a way to pressure you, because that would just not benefit them at all. And then your team can hold as far back as possible and be out of danger while you, Torb, are pushed up. So on defense, you want to be setting up on some sort of aggressive flank to get the halt hook. Unfortunately, they can't find it here because Minimi threw the halt a bit too far. Minimi gets picked off, and you're going to see that one of two things happen every time they start to lose fight. They either immediately start backing up, or the Mei tries to buy time so their team can either completely back up because the wall is up, or their team tries to set up around some sort of corner to either stall the point or wait for Minimi to get back so they can have another solid engagement. Or in this case, he tries to go for some sort of stall with the freeze, and the entire goal here, his entire goal, is to freeze them, put a wall up, make sure that they can't really push forward, and just wait for Minimi to come back, or at least just a stall percentage, which unfortunately, Engineer and Moose get off point, and they do not keep the point controlled for themselves, so they're going to lose this fight. But you'll see the Mei's job every single time is going to either stall for teammates or create space for the Hog Torb, Hog D.va, Hog whatever to push up. Okay, now going to the next fight. Again, since they're attacking, they can't really be too aggressive without putting a wall up. If they get pulled, the Mei's going to put the wall down to make sure that nobody's damaged. They're going to group up here again. They try to go for the early halt hook. They miss it. The Orisa decides to use her Fortify midair so he can't get a hook off. So now they're just waiting for another halt hook. You notice that they're not making any sort of play until they see that. The one exception, though, is that if you pay attention in the back, right here, the Torb is going to make a play, and Mei is somewhere around here. I'm not completely sure where she comes from. I think she's the Torb. But the reason they're doing that is because in this composition, they're not going to win the shield war against 3 DPS ever, especially if they're running a Mercy. So they're just trying to find some sort of play, and I think their entire plan here was once they get the halt hook, Torb is already in position to be aggressive. And the Mei is trying to get some sort of flank because she doesn't need to set up the Torb if the Torb is already behind ready to flank. You see? So if the Torb's already ready to flank, Mei doesn't need to make any space for the Torb to get on that flank from the middle of her team. So she is going with the Torb on this flank. So generally, this was in anticipation for them to actually get the halt hook combo. This isn't necessarily just to make a play because they didn't land it. This was expecting Moose to land the hook. You know, see, they go for it again, end up catching the Mercy. Notice how these two, like I said, back here, you can't see them right now, but they're still hiding behind there. They're not doing anything before they see that they get the halt hook combo off. They are not going to move and attack the backline until they get this Mercy pick. Once they get the Mercy pick, watch what the Torb and Mei do on the flank. They're going to immediately spring out once they get this pick. Yeah, they got the pick. Moose starts to move forward with his ults, try to snowball the fight. He gets picked off, but now Torb and Mei start to make plays from the back. And they're just putting incredible pressure from the flanks. And notice one thing is that the way they play this is extremely scrappy, but it's all about getting that first pick and then snowballing the fight. If you don't get the first pick with the halt hook, you are not going to be able to snowball the fight. See that move swaps over to him, and the only reason that is to contest the point. Don't worry about that. Swaps over back to Hog as soon as they for sure catch the point.
So we're basically going to be calling our halt hooks to basically like a ham and smash or slam.
Yeah, like halt hook is the first thing that initiates the fight, and once that is done, then the May creates space for the Torbjorn to move forward, or not the Torb, the D.va. Well, we'll try Torb too, but generally, once you get that halt hook combo, then the May's going to create space for the Torb / D.va and Hog to move forward. Or if the Torbjorn and the May are already on the flank like they were there, then they are going to suddenly spring out once the Hog gets the pick. But until then, they need to wait. So it's the whole thing is you just wait in one spot until you get a pick. Now this goes for when you're playing against Bunker. It's different for Goats and 3 DPS because there aren't necessarily a ton of occasions where you're going to be able to do that and just wait for the pick because they're not so grouped up. If you're playing against a Goats composition, you want everyone in the same spot. So let's just say they're running Goats. Here, actually, wait. I can pull up Young and Beautiful versus Clockwork Vendetta. Wait, hello? What are you doing?
Nice. You went right.
Google, hello?
It was right there.
Yeah, no, I click tab and for some reason it doesn't do it here, right? Hold up, I have it in history somewhere, hold up. I'm going to that. Real quick to search for this. Because when they play Young and Beautiful, they're against Goats, and it's a good place to look at what they're doing against that.
Did you find it?
Nope, I forgot where it was under. Okay, hold up.
You searched up.
Yeah, no, okay, listen, I did, but I forgot what it was before. No, that's just okay. Okay, I got it. There we go. Play capture on screen share on there. We're good. Okay. Going back to the same map so I can show an example of Goats on this map instead. Let's go to the fight they win so I can get a good example. Notice they never really win first fight because it's so like momentum based that most of the time if the other team just comes straight at them, they can't really do much since they can't really get a good pick opportunity since nothing's happened yet. Notice right here, they're playing so much more together because they're running Goats. Since they're running Goats, they cannot really try to go on any sort of flank because everyone needs to do their part in shutting down the Goats comp. Now what that looks like is the Goats comp, okay, Clockwork Vendetta, they're trying to work and get into a spot where they want to stand and cap the point or take some sort of vantage point, and they want the enemy team to come to them if the other team is running goats. So in this case, they start to move towards the point. Young and Beautiful try to push through the choke at them to where the Reinhardt gets walled off. Notice that this is the moment where the Mei now becomes more of an offensive pick rather than a pick just to make space or buy time. This is the one opportunity where that is now your job. So you're going to try to wall off 1 or 2 enemies in the goat's composition, and then from there you finish them off, and then you do the same thing. The Mei puts up a wall to make your other 2 players, again, in this case, Moose and Engineer, the Roadhog, and the Torbjorn, to move forward and just snowball that fight. But it's all about getting that first pick. So in this case, you can't get the first pick with the Halt Hook, you are now getting the first pick with the Mei wall.
Okay.
And they're just kind of going to be able to roll through here. Even without, like, if they didn't find the Lucio pick with the turret, they still would have been able to just roll through here because the Rein is dead. And since they're now on the point, their team has to come to them now even more, and they're just not really going to be able to do anything. Because Clockwork is now just bunkered down on the point. And they're just going to stall this D.Va for an insane amount of time because they have so much CC.
That's made slow is like rip.
%, they just killed the D.Va. Just gonna watch one more go of this, and then I'm gonna transition back over to the original VOD. Okay, so again, Maywall comes out. They miss the Maywall, unfortunately, but look what they do now. This is a massive brain play, and I'm actually going to play this in slow because it's hard to point out if it's full speed. Okay, so they miss the Maywall. They can just come through the right side. The original intention was to wall off the Rhine and hopefully halt him off the high ground onto the low ground, and then just to completely destroy him with the Torb that's on the flank over this way, or the Hog, not the Torb. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and they were just able to walk through. But because of this, what they're going to do is, again, the Mei is going to buy time by putting the Mei ultimate in the middle of their team, so the Goats has to stop for a second. Notice that once they start to walk through, the supercharger is put down because they're going to just carry forward momentum, and Clockwork's general idea is that they just want to shred them as fast as possible and stall out that fight as long as possible to make sure that Young and Beautiful cannot just outlast them and win the fight because of it. So they put down the supercharger, trying to do more damage than Young and Beautiful. The Mei puts down her ultimate to make sure that they cannot push forward, and because the Mei ultimate is on top of the supercharger and their team, Young and Beautiful is not going to be able to move forward and break the supercharger, so now everyone on Clockwork has 50% more damage, and they cannot die because Goats needs to be much, much closer than they are right now to actually do any serious damage. After the Blizzard is over, they then use the Torbolt to create even more space and even more time while the supercharger is up, and you'll notice that they're just buying as much time as possible and just denying as much space as possible in order to take this fight. Just by making the round go on for as long as possible. Or the fight, not the round. There's a bit of an error here with Zen using trance way too early. If Zen were to save trance until the lava was almost over, then they could have even stalled out to maybe 99, or even won this fight and just won the round immediately.
So it's like ult after ult after ult if it's against Goats.
It's like the entire thing is like, if we're going to swap out the Torb, and we're going to swap out these two, right? We're going to have the Baptiste. Okay, so just ignore this. We're going to have D.va, Baptiste, and Mccree. They'll have some sort of ability that stalls just like this, right? But it also has added benefits. So Mccree has a Deadeye and a Flash to stop any sort of forward momentum. The Baptiste can put down Invulnerability Field to make the Mccree more effective at that, and just stop Ghosts in their tracks if they try to push into you. And the D.va finally has a bomb that can zone as the McCree, the Roadhog, the May, everyone just kind of pushes forward while the bomb is out because the other team is forced to hold up shield and slowly back up while your team pushes into them for free. That's the whole idea. So it's just like, if Goats is running straight at you, then your entire goal is to just zone them out for as long as possible. And this is unfortunate they don't get the pick on the run because Sound Barrier is placed perfectly, but the Roadhog ult does come through. They end up picking off the Rhine. The May Ricky throws by putting up a wall on accident. And just from here, like, they're not going to win this fight anymore since Mini-Me and Moose, Magmata, they're all down. But they're just going to be able to stall this out for a pretty long time anyway. Like, they're going to have 75% by the time this fight is over because they were able to just stall that out forever. And they started at 35%. Wait, too far. So you see the same thing, everyone's grouped up in the same spot together. They're not really waiting too long for their Torb, because he'll get back fast because he has that E ability that makes him faster, and they're not really waiting for the Zen because the Zen has infinite range anyway. So, same thing here. Look what they're doing. They have the Orisa set up on this right side when they have Hog set up on the left side. And the whole idea here is that the Orisa is going to throw her halt, which she already did. I'll go back a bit to show you. But the Orisa threw her halt, the Hog was on the other side, so if the Hog did get the hook here from that halt, he would have pulled him over here, the May would wall her off, and they would have gotten a free pick, and then snowball the fight, just like they did every other time. So, go back here. Oh yeah, and by the way, I didn't mention it, but the entire goal of stalling the fight out, as long as they did last fight with the Torb, the Mailed, the result, the entire goal there is just to find an opportunity to get a halt hook or to wall one of them off and pick them off. Because once they get that pick, once they get that initial forward momentum, they can just carry it because the other team can't do anything about it if they're just running a Hog and a Torb in their face while the Orisa is slowly pushing forward. So pay close attention to Mini-Me and Moose here as they try to set up a halt hook combo through this little hallway. Mini-Me throws down shield. He throws out halt right around... Do it? Is he gonna do it? Okay, he didn't halt, I'm just dumb. But he tries to go for the hook on the left side so that May can wall it off. That's the whole idea. It's like if he did throw out a halt, that could have actually landed in some sort of play. I think the reason he didn't is because they're running Goats, and if he threw out a halt, it would have also caught the Rhine. Whereas if Moose just goes around the left and tries to find a hook behind the Rhine shields, they don't have to worry about the Rhine shield blocking the hook after the halt goes out. And you'll see again, Moose is positioned all the way on the point. Magmata tries to go around the back to find an anti as they're pushing forward. And you see that Clockwork is still very compact together, just trying to find some sort of initial pick, and then they'll push forward. See that the Torb tries to find some sort of zoning ult, and again, since they can't find this pick, and since Young and Beautiful are just playing behind pillars and corners here, what Clockwork is starting to do is that you'll see the Orisa is slowly going to move forward as the May puts up the wall up here to make sure that Young and Beautiful can't push up, as the Hog and the Torb are going to push up, and the Torb is putting down his ultimate to deny them from going on any sort of aggressive flank around to attack the Orisa in the back line. And because of this, Young and Beautiful just get caught out in this insane Torb. And you see Moose is on the flank. He's going to try to find some sort of pick. He has to back off because he's getting pressured. Since the anti-nade comes out, the Nano Torb, since he's nanoed and the wall comes out, you see that the May is now making more space for the team to push forward. He finds the halt hook combo, he gets the pick, and now since they have this pick, it's the same thing as every other fight. Since they have the first pick, they just win for free. Like they're slowly just going to push forward here with win. So you see the Torb's getting very aggressive. The wall comes out. Same thing as last time. The Ryan pick for free. And this fight's already over. They didn't really need to use Blizzard. They could have just used Supercharger or the other way around. And they definitely didn't need the Torbolt. But just in the future, that's the entire reason why supports ult track. And make sure that they know what they're doing when going into a fight. This specific fight, they didn't do that, so they just wasted 5 ults at the end.
Since we're only gonna have one support, and I'm gonna be playing Hog, do you still want me to be like ult tracking and helping out our other
No,
support?
Chund will have to do it solo. Because you just need to put all your attention into setting yourself up for a hook, because that's what your team relies on.
Mm.
We're down that whole hook combo. We need that initial pick to stumble in.
So it's like you see this right here. Again, even though they're on defense now, and they can, they're not really setting up on any sort of alternate angle. See, the only exception is that the Orisa, again, is setting up way back, while the Mei is looking for some sort of wall in this choke, and once the Mei wall comes out, the Hog is just going to be able to shotgun them in the face and win for free. That's the whole idea here. But the Orisa is always sitting back as far as possible on defense. And as they start to snowball the fight, the Orisa then just holds W into them. Yeah, they come through the right side, which they didn't expect. So they're going to back up to the middle of their team. The Mei wall comes out. They can't really aggress too much on this because, again, they're playing goats and the Mei wall wasn't correctly placed. Moose is still on an off angle, I think. Somewhere. Comes out. They use the trance to save the team. Again, that would have been invulnerability in our case. Moose is on some sort of flank again. It all relies on Moose getting a first pick. Where that this is where the big brain plays come in, Toko. Where you need to find some sort of pick initially, whether it's if you're cutting too close to getting that first initial halt hook, you then take some sort of flank around here or here, like Moose did to try to find that first pick. If you can't find it, well, whatever. You'll try to find some sort of wall pick then, and you just try to snowball the fight. Like, this entire comp is just built around area denial and getting the first pick. So you find the Ryan pick here first because the wall came out and because Moose was on a flank. And because they found the Ryan pick, they're just going to slowly inch forward with the Orisha shield. And they're just going to get aggressive with the Hog more than he even is right now. Wall comes out, they're able to push forward more now. Torb is going to get very aggressive. Mei is already very aggressive because the wall came out. And they're just slowly inching more and more onto point into their face. You see there is the shield, they're just putting it further and further up every single time because they can. That's the only reason why they are. It's because they can. Because there's nothing the other team can do. And the Torbolt is just going to finish it off because it's massive area now. They put it in the only spots where their team is, and they're just done at this point.
The hammer.
And there's that. And I'm just going to skip through this because we've already seen this map, and I'm going to go to Numbani defense because there's the brain plays over. And after this one, we should be done.
We should what?
We should be done after just going over this defense.
That's a genius turret.
Yeah, that's actually massive. His turret placement is kind of nuts.
Right. Oh my god. It's a monkey turret.
He's a 4600 EU Torb main, so he can do that sort of stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh
Torb one trick actually, not main.
Yeah.
I expect nothing less from someone named Engineer.
Yeah.
Fits perfectly.
Okay, so you'll see that the Orisa is set up again as far back as possible with the rest of his team, while Moose is setting up further forward. Now, I'll show you why Moose is right here specifically in a second as soon as it cuts the right spot. I can actually get a view of this. Detours, please. So like right here, like there's not much to say about this. They're kind of just waiting for them to push through here, and as soon as they push through, the May can wall them off. The Hog can get a hook. They can halt hook. They can do anything they want, really. Like, this is probably the worst spot that Vitilde could have actually pushed through.
They could have pushed top. That would have been worse. Cause...
Top, mid, anywhere that's not right here on this left side. So yeah, they're just kind of staggered here. I'm just gonna skip to the next fight because they totally do not win here. And they're just gonna keep pushing this left side because they're not very smart. Not learn. They finally pushed top. Eventually, here we go. Real quick, if it actually cuts to a decent scene, please. Any day now? Okay. Nope, still not the right one. Okay, there, finally. Ignore everything that is going on right now with any of this. Okay, this doesn't exist. The fight hasn't started yet. It took this long for them to cut to this scene. Nothing's happening. Okay. These guys aren't up here right now. The reason that Moose is positioned right here is because if they come through this left side, or this top bit, what he's going to do is that he is going to drop to here, and as they push out, they're going to try to find some sort of halt hook where they hook to the low ground. And since they are hooking to the low ground, they either get the pick, or the rest of the enemy team has to drop down to try to save the person that Moose just hooked. If they come through mid here, Moose can get a free pick out into the open where he hooks them to here. The rest of his team is set up here, and they can just shoot him from here. You get that? So, Moose is just set up in a spot to where he's constantly trying to find some sort of hook to where the rest of his team can see, and he can just get a free pick.
Basically, it's like alternate ground. If they're top, Hog goes down. If they're down, Hog stays up.
Yeah, well, I mean, not necessarily. The reason why Hog is set up at the top to begin with is because high ground advantage. If he is forced off of the top, then he can just play low ground and try to get a pick by hooking them onto the low ground. And hooking them onto the low ground doesn't necessarily guarantee a pick, but what it does guarantee is the fact that the enemy team now has to drop to either save the person or you get that free pick.
Mm-hmm.
And either way, you're either up one or you've put their entire team on the low ground while your Orisa, your supports are set up right here where the far is. Unfortunately, that doesn't go through because Moose picks off too early because he didn't back up soon enough.
In the forest.
Yeah, like the fire is destroying them. That's why we're going to be running a McCree setup. Yeah, and we're going to have, like, instead of the Torb following the Hog, the D.va is. Because the D.va still does the same job, but she's more mobile, and she can protect the Hog if he misses the original hook. And D.va can also zone the enemy team harder than Torb can in a lot of cases. But we're definitely going to try full Clockwork comp at some point.
So that's what we're calling it, right? We're not calling it like triple tank or anything. We're just calling it Clockwork.
Yeah, we're just going to call it Clockwork or not.
It's just like a goes or
So you see the wall came out here because as soon as the wall comes out here, the Ash no longer has sight of anything in that hallway. So the Ash can... Okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you see the Ash has complete vision of this entire section right here. She can get a free pick if she wanted to. But since Clockwork knows that, and since Ricky knows that, he is going to place a wall right in front of the Ash to make sure that she can't get any sight lines on their team. And therefore buying more space for the Torb and Roadhog to do their work. So he is forced back to this position where he only has view of the little tiny section right here. And because the Ash can no longer see anything that's not right in front here, that means that Engineer and Moose are free to either flank through here, here, all the way around the back. Just generally, they have a lot more space to work with. So again, Ricky's just creating infinite space for the other two to work. And you see that the Mercy got halted. Unfortunately, they didn't get the hook to follow up with because Moose is too far back. And you see that the Far is just going to do a number on Clockwork because they're not running any sort of counter. Except Ricky just lines the sickest shot of his life. And as you see, they just kill the Bob immediately because Bob poses the highest threat at the time, and since they have Supercharger down, they just insta-kill him. They can freeze the Bob and just insta-kill him, it doesn't matter. The Torbjorn and the Hog are going to alternate position here. Both of them could go at the same time, they were just off cue, so they didn't. But they just try to find some sort of, like, pick again around the left side quickly. Ricky's going to try to stall here more. Just trying to get as much time off the clock as possible, and since it is in a good position, they could have possibly gotten a pick or two and won this fight, but unfortunately it just forces out the trends. It looks like Vitility is going to win this fight. But it's pretty even on both sides, so I could go either way. Again, the halt's coming out, the hook comes through, they get the pick, the fight's already over, Clockwork wins. All they need to do now is just Engineer just needs to come back from his grave and they can push forward. So Moose is now going to go around the flank. Engineer's coming back, he's going to be back in a bit. They go for another halt hook. They don't quite find it because the Fortify. But now that Engineer should be back, they can now push forward as soon as the Maywall comes through. He's just going to throw out his ult, and I want to point out that Engineer's ult does the same thing Maywall does, is just create space and make sure that they can't go in a certain area that they want to push through. So right here, he's not using it for DPS, he's just using it to create space for his team.
Did you hear that,
The same way that you do with Maywall. Another halt comes through, doesn't really matter because it's so far back. Engineer's just going to get insta-killed because he was way out of position. Torb main.
What are you gonna do?
And as you notice, this is still just one fight. Like, the amount of area denial and, like, amount they can stall is ridiculous. Like, we're a minute and a half into this one fight. The Maywall goes again so they can stall out more time. The Engineer's turret, unfortunately. And then the Orisa is just going to go up to try to contest this. They can just sit on point here. Barrage comes out. And they're just forcing ults out of Vitality at this point. Like, whether they win or not, they've kind of already just won this fight by the ult margin. They can win the next fight easily, because they don't have to worry about ults.
So see why that nano is there. Because the nano can have some more stall capability.
More stall, and nano can be used to snowball even harder, but if you play it correctly with, let's say, a McCree and a D.va, that has a lot of frontal force, where you don't really need the nano. And like Baptiste, if you haven't already used your field passively to save your team, you can use it aggressively and snowball harder with that than you could with nano. Right here, again, halt took at the very beginning of the fight, everyone's grouped up, he finds the pick. Since he finds the pick, May should be putting a wall down somewhere so they can push forward. Doesn't really even need to happen because the enemy team knows that they're just going to get wiped here, so they just start backing up a bit. Moose is on a flank. They just put some pressure on the back line. Again, Moose is just on this constant flank trying to find some sort of angle to get a hook. Like, that's the whole idea. Just position yourself. If you know the halt's coming out, yeah, there it is again. Like, if you know the halt's coming out, position yourself with the team or somewhere that the halt is going to be seen by your team and is close enough for you to hook. If you don't think the halt is going to come out, or you know that the halt is still on cooldown, then you can go on some sort of flank to try to find a pick really early.
What's the cooldown for halt? Isn't like 4?
I think halt is 10 seconds.
10?
I'll say
Or it's either 8 or 10, yeah.
Fuck, I was way off.
Yeah, I think halt is the same as hook, so whatever hook is, it's the same.
Okay.
So that's why it's kind of easy to combo, because you know the cooldown by your own cooldown time. Again, this is another case of them making space for the Maywell. I'm gonna go back a bit because I didn't catch all of it. Okay, so what the purpose of the Maywell here is because look at this time, okay? If Vitility roll through this fight with like 30 seconds left, they can still possibly have another fight if they lose. But if they get walled here and they have to wait for another 10 seconds, then they are not going to have a second fight no matter what. So the entire purpose of wall is put it early so they do not have a chance at a second fight. Which is very situational, but in this case it works out very well. It also gives enough time for the Mei to back up from poking, so he can get in a better position. You see another halt hook combo at the very beginning. Now they halt hook, the Maywell comes out, Vitility has to back up, lose, blah 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 blah, same thing over again, halt hook again. Ash is almost dead, they didn't land the hook. Yeah, like Engineer's gonna get aggressive again, halt hook again. And that's the whole idea of the comp. You don't even really need to watch this because they lose because they just got the momentum. Yeah, there is Clockwork comp. Any questions? Anything about the comp, how you play it, how you set up, any specific characters?
no.
Not really.
About the McCree.
What?
I'm thinking about the McCree pick. Because if it's goats, because goats can really do number with McCree, but then again, I don't really know what he would be like with the PTR update.
So the whole thing with McCree is that with the PTR update, he now does barely under the same amount of damage Soldier does in terms of DPS. And McCree also has more burst than Soldier. And with that, you can now just kind of put out a ton of damage. You are doing as much damage or DPS as Torb does, except the only thing you don't have is durability. Whereas you're making up for durability with the D.va instead. Now, with the McCree in the middle of the Orisa, McCree also has more stopping power with his Deadeye than Torb does with his ult. So if you want to put down your field with your Baptiste field, you want to put that down, you Deadeye in the middle of it, they can now no longer kill you and you can just charge your ult up for free. And if they decide to hide, you halt them out, you hook them out, you pull them, you do anything, you boop them out with D.va, you just do something, you get a free pick. Whereas Torbolt does the same thing, except it doesn't really have a chance at insta-killing anything, it just kind of zones them. So, that's the whole idea behind that. And the stun is really good for if, for example, you wall someone off, like for the first example with Young and Beautiful on Control Point, where they walled off the Reinhardt. You can do the same thing there, where you can just like flash the Reinhardt right away, kill him, or if you wall off multiple people and not just one, you can flash their entire team, get a quick pick, and then keep going.
Yeah.
So that's the idea behind the McCree. And that and adding consistent damage since you're swapping out the Torb for a D.va. So there is Clockwork comp.
Is there any moment where the comp would favor 2 supports over just a Baptiste?
Well, that's what we're gonna be testing out. Like the whole idea is that I have like 4 or 5 comps that I want to try that are just variants. See which ones work best.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes. And I'm playing Mei in all of them.
Yep. Stuck in Mei jail.
You play Hog in 2 of them and Zen in 2 of them.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, that goes.